I would like to take this opportunity to first welcome and to greet our beloved celebrant of today's Divine Liturgy, and that's Very Reverend Father Dr. Anthony Tony Vrain, who is a esteemed friend, Cubaro of Father Chris Krahulis. He was my professor at Holy Cross Greek Orthodox School of Theology. He was the director of the Department of Religious Education. He now oversees Holy Cross Press. He himself has a thorough, deep-rooted knowledge of the Orthodox faith with theology and much understanding to enlighten and teach many, many generations of priests and future priests as well, too. So it's a great blessing that we have Father Tony with us today. Father Tony, lastly, as well, too, and he will speak to us shortly and offer the homily for today, is a child of the metropolis of Chicago, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, grew up at St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church in Oak Lawn, Illinois, and so it's a great honor and a blessing to have Father Tony amongst us to offer the homily, to inspire us and strengthen us with his beautiful words. Father Tony, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Father Chris. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I happen to be staying on, normally when I'm in town, I stay on the south side, a little bit closer to home, but Father Chris and Maria said, stay with us this time. So here I am. It's a little bit easier to get to St. Nectarios from where they live than all the way down to the south side. I like to think of this time of year as the marathon of saints, depending on how you're looking at your calendar. And of course, the church honors at least one saint every day of the year. But since about the feast day of St. Catherine, about a week ago, all the way to St. Spiridon or St. Eustratios in about 2 weeks, it seems like we're getting this, for lack of a better term, a kind of the Hall of Fame, a real big hit list of really important, very large saints. And I'm just going to name a handful of them: St. Catherine, St. Andrew, tomorrow St. Barbara, St. John of Damascus on the 5th, St. Sava, St. Nicholas on the 6th, then into St. Spiridon the following week. On the 7th of December is St. Ambrose of Milan. It just goes on and on and on with usually very big celebrations at home and our parishes. I think of all the churches that have one of those names, literally just here in the Chicago area, let alone other parts of the country. And what this does to me, and I think for all of us, should be this reminder when we look at each one of them individually and then kind of as a group, to think about the importance of the saints for us as Orthodox Christians. Who are these people? Why are they important to us? And what can we learn from them? First, the first thing you notice, we just run through that list that I just rattled off. Men and women, right? So every one of you here has that possibility of becoming a saint. You think of the differences of who they were. They were young and old. St. Catherine and St. Barbara in particular were younger women, teenagers, in fact. And sainthood became open to them. You think of St. Nicholas and St. Ambrose, St. Spiridon, as having been great teachers and bishops. Nicholas and Spiridon in particular, present at the First Ecumenical Council. Teachers, bishops, pastors of people. You think of St. Eustratios as a soldier. We think of St. John of Damascus as a great theologian of the church, who gave us our theology of the icons, who defended and explained our faith as it's presumed, because he's in Damascus, which was already part of the Islamic world at that time. He's explaining our faith and our belief in icons, not to Christians, but potentially to the Muslim rulers that he lived with, to say, these are not idols. These are who we are. This is who we are and why we honor the saints and why we paint icons. And of course, his ideas to them become incorporated in our faith of the church. So what we see is a variety of individuals, not one size fits all type of saint, except in one category. They all devoted their lives to God and their faith and the church. But they did it, each one of them did it in their own unique way, basically through their vocation as women, as teachers, as bishops, as soldiers. And you go through the entire list of the saints, we get, emperors and empresses and monastics, you name it, they all had that capability. They all become saints. And the church recognizes them for their singular devotion to God and the church. In the case of the martyrs, that singular devotion that led them to put their own lives on the line and, in fact, usually lose their life for their faith. Or someone like a John of Damascus who used his mind to defend our faith and explain our faith. Nicholas and Spiridon to clarify our faith for us. The words we recite in the Creed are the words that Nicholas and Spiridon in 325 articulated for us with the others that were there. Each one of them are using their own capabilities to the glory of God. And so when you look around the church and see the icons of the saints in the icon screen and in the back and around us, you can look at them and go, what made them unique? What did that one do that led to this honor of being recognized as a saint? Sometimes we would say it's a miracle. They gave us miracles, and of course many of them did, but not all of them. Many of them, just as I said, did something unique. They used that talent. So when we begin to think about this, the first thing we can say about the saints is each one of them is unique. Each one of them is distinct. And you might have the name of any one of them that I just mentioned or another saint, and you go, you're imitating that person in your name, but you're not living 1,700 years ago or 1,500 years ago. You're living now in 2023, the 21st century, in a suburb of Chicago. Yet you are called to imitate that saint, but you can't repeat that saint because your life is different, your situation is different. So your capability of becoming saint-like will be different based on the circumstances that you find yourself in. They used their gifts because they loved their church. And each one of us can certainly love our church and our faith to that devotion that they would give. They used it creatively. And again, I'll pick on John of Damascus. He's one of my particular favorites because he used his creative writing skills, his writing to articulate a very difficult concept so many centuries ago. St. Catherine arguing with the philosophers and defeating them in their arguments about Christianity. So they're each using their unique abilities, their talents to their fullest for the glory of God, for the church, and for the faith in large. And of course, we can go on and on and on and think of the saints that served the poor, the hungry, that opened up establishments and institutions that help their neighbor. They're so unique. So when we look at saints, it's easy for us to say, well, they all kind of look the same, and kind of be done with it. But when we get more carefully involved, we see the nuances and the distinct elements of each one's life. And we can learn from that. And we might find a particular connection to one of those saints because even not necessarily the one we're named for, but because we see elements of our lives in their experiences, and their experiences help us in our own life. And so by studying the lives of the saints, we too are enriched as Christians and as followers of Jesus Christ. But it gets better than that. St. Paul, in his letters, opens them almost consistently by saying, to the saints residing in Ephesus, Corinth, Thessalonica, Rome, whichever city he was writing his epistles to. He was writing to them as a group. He was calling the church, the followers of Christ, wherever they were, already as holy people, saints. And so if he were writing today, he'd be writing to the saints of Palatine or Chicago. And we can be struck by that because I'm not a saint. And yet St. Paul is saying, yes, you are. And so I want you to look to the person sitting to the right and to the left, and you go, that person, you're a saint. You're a saint. And you're going, oh, wait, that's my kid. He ain't no saint. I know that person. She ain't no saint. But St. Paul says, yes, you are. Because you've been called out of the wider world and into the church, you already are a saint, and you are going to appoint yourself at some point into that lifestyle, and you yourself could become a saint. And one of these days, we may recognize you, and your icon will go up there. You think of the saints of the 20th century, your own Saint Nectarios, right? Dies in the 1920s, 100 years ago. And here he is, one of us. And that's how this happens, this dynamic process of each one of us living our lives as creatively, as uniquely, as distinctly, as faithfully, in a devoted way to God, to faith, to our neighbor. As saints now, and yet perhaps one day after we have left the earth, the rest of the community says, he, she was a saint among us. They'll tell our stories, your stories. They'll put our pictures, our icons on the wall one day, and people will remember us as we've remembered those from the past. You are already a saint.